This is the Effective Engineering Manager podcast. In today's episode, Slava and Adam discuss the importance of building and maintaining morale in an engineering organization.
Welcome to the Effective Engineering Manager podcast.
Hello, Slava. It's your time today. What would you like to talk about?
Today, I'd like to talk about maintaining a team's morale through tough times. We're going to share our thoughts on causes of the tough times, the importance and effective approaches to maintaining team morale during those tough times.
It's a great topic, and so let's dive right into it with the question, why do you think companies get into tough times?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I've been seeing those cycles up and downs observing them for at least 23, 24 years in the Valley. And based on my observations, companies get into trouble for two reasons. The first is changes in the markets and economical conditions, and the second is self-inflicted damage. And while the most likely root cause is the same, the unwise management decisions and actions, today we are going to focus on tough times caused by negative changes in the economical conditions. And this is what I saw very consistently companies doing that got them into trouble. Number one is treating the upturns as if they will be going on forever. And what it does, it results in overspending and overhiring. And then second, when the things begin to go down, these companies quickly find themselves in financial trouble because revenue and margins drop, and they just don't have cash reserves to sustain organizational health through the downturn. And an easy fix is to be frugal and focused during the upturns and to build cash reserves adequate for surviving an inevitable guaranteed downturn. But for some reason, just few companies do that. And these are the companies that we know as successful. And I think Apple is a very good example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to lean in a little bit to what you're saying. I mean, treating those upturns as if they go on forever. Look at what happened during the pandemic in tech, right? We were, we were in a part of a technical renaissance prior to the pandemic. And then, there were some industries and whatnot that were they were struggling in different areas and some were thriving, but the pandemic flipped everything on its head. And then a lot of tech companies, especially service companies, SaaS companies, I mean, they went through the roof and they thought that was their new normal. And nobody really knew what was going to happen, geopolitically, with the return to work and all that kind of stuff as well. And so they went and overspent, right? They went overspend in infrastructure, in humans. They recalibrated their workforce and everything, and then suddenly things suddenly come back to normal a couple of years later, and with everything happening in the economy and changing, it really caused a lot of companies to push the brakes. And you combine that with companies that were already starting to change their model and work more efficiently. I can have a remote workforce. I don't need an office. I can spin up workforce as needed. I can go to lower cost areas. I can take advantage of really being global. And then you combine those two things together, and now their new operating model was vastly different, right? They're going to operate far more conservatively. They're going to operate in a way that's going to guarantee them better results, especially in the near term, so that they are going to be fearful of another pandemic-like scenario where it's non-deterministic, not going to know how to respond to it. And then you couple that with another major shift in the industry itself with generative AI, and now you have a whole new layer of unknown, right? And now I think you're seeing anybody that's adopting generative AI or AI in general is looking at this as an opportunity to catapult their business again, and yet they're still going to be wrangled by higher costs and all that kind of stuff. So we see some of these same patterns continue to replay themselves over and over, even though we think we should have learned from different things. But the longer term patterns that are changing are becoming more prevalent as well, like how we're adapting to a more retractable workforce, how we're working more remotely, and tying into our concept here on morale, how that is impacting our ability to be productive, and if we can't be productive, we can't meet our bottom line. So I think it's a really, really good observation that you make. It's something we should really be talking about. So on top of that, why do you want to talk about maintaining team morale through tough times?
Yes, maintaining team morale during the upturns is easy because the future is bright, just like you described. Things are looking up, money is pouring in, hiring is happening across the board, markets are climbing like there's no tomorrow, and there's really it seems that there's nothing to worry about. Now, the story is very different during the downturns. What we see and saw many times before, in my memory, at least 4 times, I think 4 times, we see contracting budgets, we see reorgs, layoffs across the board, projects and programs disappearing from the roadmaps, and we see lack of engineering and people leadership during those downturns. And as a result, it is likely that the engineering teams will be uncertain if they're going to have their jobs tomorrow. And the team's morale naturally drops. And this in turn impacts the team's well-being, it impacts productivity, and as a result, the company's ability to deliver results. And it's just sort of like a vicious circle. The worse team's morale is, the worse company's economical situation, because the company is not performing on top of its capabilities as it should be, especially during the downturns. So it's really, there's a major harm that comes from low team morale during the downturns. And now, having said that, let's remember that the job of an effective engineering manager is getting results while retaining the team. And this means that in the downturn environment, it is even more important than usual for managers to lean into maintaining the team's morale. And the good news is that there are effective approaches that engineering managers can start applying today. And these tools include things such as, these approaches include one-on-ones, kudos programs, positive feedback, team outings, and career development and engineering leadership.
One thing I will add on this is we often talk about some of our engineering management topics in a vacuum, right? We talk about different things and strategies managers can do. This topic is actually one that where we're talking about in a very real and very practical way, where there is this undercurrent of change, and there's potentially downturn, there's potentially morale, but we as engineering managers we can't change, right? We can't just try to, we can't just ebb and flow with how the rest of the market or the company morale and everything is flowing, right? We still have to maintain, our level best for doing all these things. And I think you hint on this, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it, but these tools are so fundamental towards being long lasting and surviving any one of these periods. You mentioned, you've known 4 different periods of downturn, in your career where this has happened. So it's undoubtedly going to continue to, repeat the same pattern. And the only thing that we can do to sustain is making sure we have really good tooling to support us through that.
Yep, that's exactly what this is exactly right. And okay, so now let's talk about those practical approaches that engineering managers have to maintain a team's morale effectively. So some of them are easy to implement. Some of them require purposeful, dedicated work from the engineering managers. And maybe we'll start with the ones which are easy to implement. And number one is my favorite is one-on-ones. So regardless of how tight your one-on-ones were during the upturn or during the normal times, and now you're in a downturn, very stable, very tight one-on-ones keep the team engaged. And this happens because you are demonstrating to your team, that you are there for them. And what it means that even if in some cases it's impossible, but if there is an opportunity for a face-to-face one-on-ones, even if it requires some driving around to an office, I would highly recommend doing a one-on-ones face-to-face, because nothing can replace human presence, and this, if it's possible, I highly recommend. When you are conducting one-on-ones, it is important to continuously and persistently asking your members of your team how they're doing and how you can help. And this means offering help and delivering on those asks. And that is going to help your team to feel that they're well taken care of. Now, there's also, these days, almost all companies of meaningful size have remote offices, sometimes onshore, sometimes offshore. And I would recommend during downturns, make it a practice, if the budget allows, to go to remote offices at least once a quarter, even if it's once every 4 months, even once every 6 months. But go there and be there for the team and do those one-on-ones with your direct reports or skip level in those remote offices face-to-face. So that's number one, one-on-ones. Second is positive feedback. It's hard to understate because we all love positive feedback, because it reinforces our sense of doing the right thing, and that right thing being seen and appreciated. And so make sure that even small accomplishments of members of your team don't go unnoticed. And cannot be easier. You see someone doing something good, pull them pull them out and say, hey, dude, appreciate what you've done, good stuff. And it doesn't have to be very complex or some sort of a heavy process, although it can be improved through things like manager's journal. Now, the third one is something I know that this is a topic very close to your heart, kudos programs. And it's a kudos program. It's a great way to show the team that their accomplishments are not forgotten. And maybe, Adam, you could share a bit more. We've done a podcast on kudos programs, but maybe you could just give us a bit of a shallow dive, if you want, into how to arrange a kudos program.
Yeah, sure. No, this is a great list, and we can't. I don't think we can overstate this enough. All these things, one-on-ones is so critical. I mean, the theme of all of this is really about how you just maintain that human connection and trust and whatnot. And kudos, this is a program that I over the years have developed. Just it kind of came by happenstance. It was just like, recognizing people for good things that they've done, accomplishments, and seeing how just happy they were. I mean, for the littlest things, as you mentioned. And not letting them go unnoticed, and turning that into a more formal program where we do it quarterly or sometimes even monthly, where what the meaningful thing is, you're recognizing someone for something in a genuine way. It's not just thanking everybody for everything, or just it's not equal. There's some level of merit to it, but it's also a way that you recognize it in front of the rest of their team, their peers, because people. Especially your strongest performers will take a lot of pride in their work, and a little bit of recognition from their boss, or even if you can do a skip level recognition, that's also great. Means a lot. It gives people purpose. It gives people, even individuals that, especially if you're going through a tough time, as a company or personally or whatever, feeling that coming to work and your work is being valued and that it means something. And it's a very low overhead way to do things. If you can tie it to some kind of monetary payment, like a spot award bonus or gift cards or even just taking someone out to lunch, even better. But even just the recognition that comes from you as your boss to the person, to your direct, and just really thanking them and really leaning into why it was so important and helpful what they did, and it doesn't even have to be about what they did either. It could be about how they did it, and maybe they demonstrated very strong collaboration across teams, and that it works in multiple ways. It helps, maintain motivation with the individual, but it also keeps the bar high for the team as a whole, and people recognize that, and then they're motivated. So it's a great program. It's something that you can do anytime. It's one of those things that you can do constantly, regardless of the situation. And just like one-on-ones and positive feedback and outings that you mentioned are all other really great foundational tools.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks. So yes, and so we talked about the things which are very easy to implement to maintain team's morale. The tight one-on-ones, the positive feedback, the kudos program. The fourth one, which is worth mentioning, is team outings. So, and I've done it myself many times. I don't know how many times, maybe hundreds. But during the downturn, it becomes important for the team to meet as a team together, face to face, outside of the office, real or virtual. And it means that it's just maybe one of the best ways to maintain team's cohesion, even if there is no budget. I mean, I've seen how companies just completely shut down paying for lunches or dinners, team outings, right? So even on a low budget, even on a no budget, what works, we still organize, set up time, and go out, and everyone just pays that out of their pocket. We still get together to sit at the table. We still get to talk about things. We still get to see each other's faces, enjoy each other's presence. And it's just so valuable for the team to be together outside of the office environment. So I highly recommend it. And these are the 4 easy ones. Now, there are things which are require significant work and at the same time are very effective. And I have 3. First is the engineering leadership, second is coaching, and third is career development. And the engineering leadership is important because what I've seen many times, that if restructuring occurs or there are like major layoffs and multiple horizontal and diagonal leadership roles are eliminated, teams end up essentially headless without someone being responsible for the entire team, right? I mean, they lose managers, and can be happening on any level, and new leadership will show up eventually, right? But for them to become fully plugged in may take months, and I've seen years, and it may never actually happen, right? So, and what happens is that teams feel directionless. And what I've heard things such as teams saying, we don't know where we're going engineering-wise. We don't know what we're going to be doing next. And this is unacceptable. And I think this is where a solid engineering leader, a solid, effective manager has an opportunity to contribute. And what I would recommend, and again, it's a lot of work and it's not non-trivial, but take, even if it's temporary, if you're not even becoming that leader, right, officially, because no one is going to let you, but become this unofficial engineering leader who can sets the direction, and build a vision for what you want to accomplish, set strategic goals not something that we have to deliver something next 2, 3, 4 sprints, but set vision and the goals for not for yourself, but for the team, so that everyone knows where we are going and what we are trying to accomplish. But of course, you have to make sure that these goals and this vision has to align with the organization, with the company goals, right? And so that's number one. And part of that engineering leadership and figuring out if there is no direction, if folks are upstairs trying to figure out what to do next, how, with what resources, the downturn means that the company has to continue to deliver a value to the customers, has to make money, has to continue to roll. And doing more with less becomes critical. Whether there were layoffs or whether the budgets were cut, but usually what you end up with is lesser capabilities without much of a change in what has to be delivered. And one of the things which contributes is going to help any engineering manager who is thinking about it is cost-saving initiatives. And a very good example, and I'm not talking about cutting heads. I mean, this is something that I oppose. And if it's going to be happening, someone will take care of for you, not without asking much, asking many questions or feedback. But it's your job as a manager to ensure that you do more with less. How? Like I said, cost-saving initiatives. And a very good example is looking at your cloud expenses, and you have to look at them under a microscope. Right? So where's the money is going? And I'm saying cloud because cloud these days is usually the top of the spreadsheet, not counting the compensation, right? So come up with ways to reduce how much you burn in the cloud. Come up with ways to optimize processes where you can do, what are the friction, where's the friction in your processes, and just aggressively go after those opportunities and eliminate that friction. And this will allow your team to run smoother and again, do more with less. And the good news is that once things become better, you're going to come out with optimized, effective, cost-efficient, strong team. And maybe next time you won't have to you won't have to be hurt as much as now. And so that's on engineering leadership. Again, it's these things can take depending how good you are, can take weeks to come up with and agree upon and launch and start implementing. The second one is coaching. Again, it is the same theme of doing more with less. It's your job to continuously raise team's capabilities through coaching and training. And what it means that a greater capabilities of the team will allow you to accomplish more with the same number of people, because people are just capable of doing more with greater quality, with greater speeds, and deliver more. And the third one is, takes time and lots of work, career development. One may ask, why would you do career development during the downturn when there are no promotions, there are no bonuses, everything is locked down? And this is normal. Pauses in promotions and bonuses are normal during downturns, but it's also a great time to start working on someone's career or lean into developing someone's career, because the time pressure is less. You actually do have time to build a good plan and get them to the next level. Good for the company because they're more capable, good for their sense of self-worth and their morale, because they see that you as the face of the company care of them and take care of them, right? And again, in the end of the day, when things become better, the member of the team is going to be ready. Now imagine that you don't do this, you don't develop their careers, things begin to get better, and you begin to think, okay, now need to start working on my team. And guess what? The downturn lasts for, let's say, 1 to 2 years, right? And then they're going to be spending next year developing them, and the whole cycle is going to take 3 years. By that time, they're going to be thinking, okay, what am I doing here? No one is taking care of me, right? Or no one cares, right? So again, key, you have time, you can plan, you can execute, and get them ready. What do you think?
Well, I think it's very comprehensive, Slava. And as I'm listening to all this, I see a theme, and it's about being proactive. Always a step or two ahead. And I think this parallels a lot of what we've guided in the past to engineering managers, whether they're new in the role or long time in the role or growing. You always have to look ahead. You always have to be imagining yourself 2 steps ahead of where you're at today, thinking of the future. And you're right. I mean, leadership can change, especially it often does change, and in combination with plenty of the things you talk about, like budget cuts and less opportunities, but you still got to deliver the same to maintain the business, often under difficult circumstances. And if you're not a step ahead with a coaching plan for your team and being the one that can help rally the team, and not just being a rah-rah kind of guy, and but being realistic to the circumstance, but finding the right path to navigate your team to stay with you, but also enhancing their own capabilities, and how you can deliver more is, I think, probably the epitome of what a really good engineering manager or leader is. So I think that's the big theme, and I think these are all, you're absolutely right, they require significant work for all of them. It requires a high level of awareness, and it requires a high level of execution, especially during difficult circumstances. So I think this is a great list, and it's something I think everyone should take pause and think about, and say, look, am I ready for the next downturn? What would I do if we were hit with some things tomorrow, whether it's something very sudden and abrupt like a health pandemic, or is it something more steady like a strategic change or reorganization of the business? So I think this is a great list. Thanks for sharing it. So to summarize for our listeners, Slava, can you give us a checklist that our listeners can take immediately and start applying?
Yes, here's a checklist that will allow our listeners to maintain team's morale during tough times. 1, run your one-on-ones consistently. Increase number of skip level one-on-ones. Offer and deliver help. Celebrate even small accomplishments by providing positive feedback. Start or continue a kudos program. Take your team out for dinner more frequently. Provide engineering leadership in case of organizational changes that are leading to engineering leadership vacuum. Coach members of your team to increase their capabilities to enable so we can do more with less. And last one, develop careers so that the team feels appreciated and ready when the next upturn begins.
Thank you, Slava. This was an excellent checklist. I think it's a checklist that every manager should be thinking about and checking off for themselves, and putting it in a little file so that when you're ready and that you're preparing for any type of downturn, and always evaluating morale. So thanks for the checklist. This was great stuff.
Thank you, Adam. More good stuff is coming, and I encourage our listeners to this episode to share it if they like it. And we're looking forward to feedback and suggestions. And I'm happy to say and announce that we are beginning to provide consulting services that include customized training for new managers, training on effective engineering management to help companies accomplish more with less, and training on the fundamentals of building teams from ground up. If you have any questions, you can reach us at contact@effectiveam.com and www.effectiveam.com. Thank you.